And it says we are live, so we are live.
All right, all right. What is up, everyone? How has everyone's February been? Uh, it's time for another anime podcast. Oh, Jesus. How is everyone doing? All right. So, this this month we wanted to go with something more Valentine's themed, and that means it's time to torture RJ with yet another romance anime. Feels so good. I love it. And this month, we are talking about OreGairu. But first, everyone introduce yourselves. I'm, of course, Neo Tokyo Tempo.
I am Getsuryu, or Josh, as you'll hear me being called.
And
Don't-
Striker. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You started.
Sorry. Striker Red in the house. What's up, everybody?
All right. Dom, and I am drinking some nice cherry whiskey tonight.
All right, don't get too drunk.
I am Red Baron flying through the sky and drinking water.
All right, all right. So, OreGairu. All right, so,
Say the
Just,
American name so they know what it is.
oh yeah. It's, God, I can never remember the American name. It's too
teen
long.
Romance comedy
My-
SNAFU.
Yeah. Or my youth romance comedy is wrong as I expected. My teenage romance comedy snafu. Snafu meaning situation normal all fucked up.
God, that's almost
It's a military.
I just thought, man, that's almost like a light novel title, and then I look at the source, light novel.
Yeah, no, it's a
But anyway, so OreGairu, which is what I'm going to call it because that's way too long, is about a kid who's having trouble socializing in school. So one of his teachers forces him into the youth service club, in which they have to help
Socialize.
help solve like other students' problems. And there he meets a girl named Yukino, who is extremely logical to a point of a fault. She's almost like a really long-winded female Spock. Is kind of an interesting personality.
Yeah.
And-
She's kind of the because each of these the characters in the show seems to kind of like play off of a archetype, and she's kind of like the straight-laced heiress type of character.
Yeah. And the show depicts them going through various adventures. Well, not exactly adventures, but predicaments and stuff like that, trying to help the other students of the school deal with their problems. And slowly, some of those students end up joining the club. So, I guess we'll start out, of course, just to get the conversation going. We'll start out with the animation. I think the animation it's kind of average. It looks a little bit plasticky, but it did come out in like 2013. What was it?
Yeah, it was 2013, and I mean the light novels started in 2011, so just kind of consider that. It wasn't meant to be a giant hit at the time. It was just kind of like a backlog kind of show, and it took off a lot more than people expected because a lot of people kind of latched on the Hachimen. So the first season definitely is lacking in the animation department, while also just being kind of like a basic slice of life animation.
Yeah. So are you saying like the later seasons they have better animation?
I think the second season ups the quality just a little bit, but again, it is slice of life. You are getting a very basic kind
You
of.
forgot to mention that we're
look.
only
Yeah,
reviewing
we're
the
only-
first season.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
only
yeah,
doing
yeah.
the season. Because we aren't doing 2.
There's too much
So-
ADHD to get through 2 separate seasons. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so no, it ups a little bit in quality because they started getting more money in. However, it's it's basic slice of life kind of animation. It's what you expect from almost any anime at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, the animation it wasn't bad. It's about average for what you would see at the around 2013.
There are a few episodes in the, I would say, in like the middle part of it that would often linger on scenes that where some of the characters were a little bit off model. It wasn't anything too major. Like there wasn't any like continuity errors that I noticed, or like very blatant uh you know bad cuts or anything like that. But I would say like around the mid half, like I forget what arc it was, but there's like an arc in the middle half. I would say around episode 5 where there's a bit of a dive for the next like 1 or 2 episodes.
Hmm.
The
I'm trying to remember which arc that is, just to get
Yeah.
around that because that's right before the camp arc. So
Yeah.
let me just make sure here. But keep going with the conversation. I'll kind of bring up that part.
Yeah, the camp arc had a couple interesting things with how they were sort of playing off the sort of darkness of like the horror scene where they were trying to spook the kids.
Yeah.
We'll touch on that scene later because I thought that scene was a little strange, but
That's probably like that arc was probably my favorite one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was legitimately great. But yeah, keep going.
I think
yeah.
I think
I
the dog arc really stuck a core with me because
the witch arc.
you know that arc where the guy tries to find out the main character tries to find out whose dog was it that he saved.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That was the
And
middle arc.
that leads
was
into
To
Yeah.
Yui.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that leads into the how that leads into the owner of the car that hit him. And without giving too much away, they intertwined the three main characters quite well. It was and that led to some pretty interesting conflicts between them.
I'm not gonna touch on it right now, but there was something I had going in the back of my head. With that aspect.
If you have a thought that you want to just blurt out, just go ahead.
No, this would have to tie into the when we talk about the story because
Alright,
there's a
yeah.
part
Yeah,
there's
we
an
can
aspect with the car that
We can talk each individual arc. I have like all the episodes up so that we can kind of like go through each arc really quickly.
Yeah.
Once we get there. But yeah, no, I think that we all kind of agree that it's kind of basic animation. Like that wasn't the selling point of this show. One thing I
Yeah,
will
it
say
wasn't.
is, um, I, one of the things in a lot of animes that you find is that like they don't switch outfits often, and this is one where they actually do. So that was kind of a nice change, but that's one of the only real visual things that you'll even notice.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
noticed
actually
that about it.
it,
That was pretty neat.
yeah, it actually feels like they're changing days rather than just like just the same outfit for each character. So that's a nice little touch.
Yeah. I don't even think we really have to talk about the sound design and the music besides like the opening theme because I don't know. Did you guys even notice really much about the sound design and the music? 'Cause I didn't.
So
Uh,
I
it was
actually had to stay completely focused
It,
on it, and this is like the fourth time I've watched it. where because like I just put it on as like background music a lot of the time, or like background noise a lot of the time, and just not even noticeable, really, even when I'm
I
trying to pay
cannot
attention.
I cannot remember a single part of the show's soundtrack. I can kind of remember the opening theme, which was decent. Ending theme also decent. Uh,
One thing I liked about the ending theme is that, and this is during one of the arcs and around episode like 4ish with or 3 or 4ish with Yuigahara, but it switches to a it switches to a different range of the ED, so that rather than being faster, it slows the tempo and like makes it a bit more melancholic rather than higher energy.
mm,
And I
yeah,
thought that was really interesting. And also, I would say that in the yeah, I couldn't think of anything else like because the sound design or the soundtrack like worked well within the scenes. There was this nice little cheery little theme that or like theme in like lighter hearted scenes with a flute that was really nice. But outside of that, the production values definitely weren't the seller for this.
yeah. Um, there is one thing I liked about the ending theme, in particular, and that is they actually had ending cards, um, where right before the theme would start, it would almost pull a "See You, Space Cowboy," where like in a large number of the episodes, it would say, what was it? And now he's back to where he begins, where
Yeah.
he began. And then for some of the other episodes, it would say something else for some of them. And I found that to be quite likable. It is pretty cool. Um, yeah, so let's talk about the main character. Let's talk about Hachiman.
Oh, Hachiman.
Yeah.
Can I jump in real quick? I like to start
Yeah,
that off. I just want to say I like how he started off being really cynical and really like just straight up. The first line he says, just paraphrased, goes like, "There's no hope." I hate being. I basically hate being a teenager, and then he gets worse and worse, like an edgy teenager. He starts saying like, "Look at human hierarchy. How am I supposed to have hope in this?" And then he comes across this girl who's hyper logical. He's a cynic. He's cynical. She's hyper realistic. And then slowly he starts helping other people. Like he like the girl who is trying to learn how to bake, and then he
Yui.
tells her, yep, yep.
Yuigahara, yeah.
So he tells her how people function because she goes, well, you guys were supposed to help me and I'm still not good. And he said, well, we helped you. Just because the end result isn't how you want it to be doesn't mean that you get to you get to say that we weren't helping you. And
Yeah,
then I like how he becomes a catalyst for not necessarily just positivity but realistic positivity.
yeah. I like a lot of I like a lot of the solutions that he comes up with because they're things that like they would initially sound negative, but are actually quite thoughtful and they lead to positivity. Like what he tells Yui when she can't really bake her cookies is he does something pretty clever. He he says I'll bake some cookies and then he swaps them out or he has them leave the room and then come back and he just gives them Yui's cookies and they say it tastes a little bit better. And then he tells Yui, "Yeah, those are your cookies." And then then he tells her, "Yeah, no guy is going to particularly care if the cookies taste good. They're just going to be happy to receive cookies."
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. And
Yeah.
uh, and then there's also the character development between and the chemistry between both Yui and Yukino because Yui wants to be friends with Yukino, and she she isn't necessarily very fond of friendships to be
Yeah,
with.
yeah. Yukino is, well, like we said, hyper logical,
Yeah.
and hyper realistic.
Yeah,
And you,
she's the Kudai character.
yeah, and Yui is, well, she's what you would actually expect from a teenage girl. She's a bit
Energetic.
she's energetic, she's outspoken, she's extroverted.
She's
Um,
cheery.
yes, very very happy person. So they're kind of mismatching personalities, and a lot of their relationship is kind of uh Yui sort of bothering her, and uh Yukino just kind of accepting it.
What I definitely think makes the characters in the show work is that besides the main character is definitely a realistically written, teenage character. But besides that, a lot of the characters in the show are very archetypical. But what the writing does with it's actually really clever, because the show, it's billed as a romance, but it almost feels like a character study at times, because it goes into like how these types of personalities, which are typically just glossed over in other harem shows or something like that, are developed. Hachiman uses his cynical outlook because he's trying to like cope with a lot of his less fortunate instances in the past, with his success with trying to get people to try to date people, the accident he has, which affects him later on, and Yukino, she has her whole situation with her family. Yui
Being
tends to
loaded.
be yeah.
Yeah.
Yui tends to be very easily pressured by other people. Like, it's like they took these, or the writer took these archetypes and really tried to break down what social situations would lead to this, which I think is definitely the selling point of the show. It is the character writing, it is its greatest strength.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
just to kind of build on that a little bit, the entire reason why I think like the show is better than most like harem animes, better than most of those like normal kind of like rom-com animes and slice of life, is rather than like make these outlandish characters come together and be like automatically like falling in love and things and putting them in like ridiculous situations where they're like forced to like each other more and more. It's kind of like a slow build and a more realistic look. It's like these characters are still staying true to themselves, and that's kind of the joke. It's like this is how life normally would look. Like if you put these kind of
Yeah.
people together, it's
yeah.
actually like this is
I
actually how life would be, not kind of like these like this character is now shoved in with them.
Yeah, I think a lot of the character development is handled kind of similarly to Kare Kano.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're the way they get the characters' thoughts across to the viewer is handled in a very similar way, where they're monologuing over over montage. And while I don't think it's done quite as well as it is in Karekano, and but it is still very effective, and it has it has the same effect. It allows the viewer to be placed directly into the character's shoes rather than simply looking at it from the outside.
Uh, can I say something real quick, sir?
Okay.
Of course.
So basically, what you're saying is that it actually makes the characters relatable in a way. Because I
Yeah.
actually thought about this when I was watching the series. Like I actually sort of relate a little bit with Hachiman in some areas.
Yeah, so
And also,
even though the writing's kind of average, I get exactly what you mean. Even though it's a little bit average, you can still relate to the characters. It's done well enough that you can relate to characters.
Yeah, and I
Very
think Hachiman is a character that a lot of anime fans can relate to.
Yeah, I
very
think that's
much.
definitely like one of the many reasons this anime took off. Like that and the memes were just the entire two
Yeah.
reasons. Like
There's some memes in the show.
I mean,
Wow.
yeah.
It was.
There's a
It's
ton.
definitely. It definitely feels like that the I can definitely feel that the writer is because this is the same writer I believe as a Girlish Number, which was another show that was kind of about
Ouch.
voice actresses and the and seiyus and the anime industry. But one of the things that he seems to be really good at crafting stories what I think is kind of around personal experience. Like really well. It doesn't feel like that. Like he's able to channel his personal experience through the lens of you know
The characters.
shows stuff that might be more archetypical. And I think that's why people are able to like people who watch this show probably because let's face it, a lot of people into anime probably can relate to some of these experiences, and they could definitely relate to Hachiman as a character. I think most people would do it on some level, but there are some characters, or there are some people out there that will relate far more, and maybe haven't even really got over the that period of their life.
Yeah, and a lot of those people are also they also happen to be very attracted to anime.
Yeah, and so it seems like it's one of those things where the writer and the audience, the intended audience, seem to be very like really in sync, and it doesn't feel like something that's even necessarily pandering
Yeah.
because it's completely honest, and for some people might be completely uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's not forced in any way.
Yeah. So like that's the main three. Just to kind of jump on the other characters.
Yeah, we actually have quite a bit of time
Yeah.
to fill.
Yeah. I guess let's talk about maybe best girl or best boy, depending on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Let's talk about
Sota,
Totsuka.
what's his name?
Totsuka.
yeah.
Totsuka. Yeah.
So that had to have been a girl, right? Like come on.
I'm a
don't-
boy. I'm a boy, Hachiman.
No,
Yeah,
you're
no,
not getting the damn
president
maid
of the
outfit.
tennis. Yeah. Oh man, just every part of that, like that
Holy shit.
that was definitely the best comic relief that you could have put into the show, while also like
I legit thought.
Yeah, every like every single shot that he's in is like every shot of what's her face Nagisa in the first episode of Clannad.
oh yeah.
It's just every time you see him, he's got like sparkles and like flowers around him or something.
He's the
I think
perfect girl.
flowers around him is more of a '90s thing, but you get what I mean. Sparkles.
Yeah,
Dude,
he's the
I,
perfect
I
girl.
just want to say, like, okay, just hands down for me, Shizuka, because teacher.
Oh god. And also because you know what she does to Hachima, dude.
Yeah. But by the way, like,
Beats the
why is
shit
she
out of him, which
why
leads
why
him
is she
to,
allowed to smoke inside the school?
Because Japan apparently.
Why
Because
is
it's
she
an
allowed to
anime.
beat her student like in the faculty lounge? Like, why is she allowed to do that too? It's
everyone just seems used to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, what the fuck? So
Yeah.
I'm
Kind of
seeing
reminds me, if you've ever played the visual novel, it kind of reminds me of the head nurse, and how she would constantly be like smoking and things like that. And the character would even point it out. Yeah, you shouldn't be doing this on school grounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you know,
just to kind of
there is
go ahead. Go ahead.
There's something I want to say about. I want to say something about Saika real quick, and I thought she was one of those befonin chicks, and then Saika is basically a bishi, or as I would say, a bishonen. Basically, Saika is has the archetype bishonen, like the guy looks really feminine, but
Just to
think that
kind of
mixed-
touch on, because yeah, Psycho was the person that had the after school jobs.
Yeah.
So just
and I thought Saika was a female name, so
Honestly,
Pretty
I
fucking weird.
don't. Honestly, I don't. Of all the people that were like doing like bad things in the show,
Mhm.
like I don't think she was doing a particularly bad thing.
I think hers was more that she didn't tell her family. Like, and she should have just said, it's like, hey, I'm working like these night jobs to pay for college. Like, if she would have told her family that, like that's all it was. Like, not wanting to
Yeah.
confront your family about like
Well,
things that you're struggling with.
it kind of cuts a bit deeper than that. She was unnecessarily crippling herself to, and this is
Mhm.
something that Hachiman points out. She's unnecessarily crippling herself because she tries to put it off like she's relieving a burden for her
older her younger
her
brother.
family. She's
Yeah,
trying to relieve a burden
but
on her
it's
family's.
because
Go ahead.
but it's more egotistical than that, and even Hachiman kind of picks up on it. It's because she personally feels like she's a burden.
I'll be
Like,
honest with you real quick, but Saki Kawasaki's arc in the series was actually one of the more interesting arcs because of her job occupation.
Yeah.
That was all right.
I did like when they went into the maid cafe and of course the otaku dude is like whatever his name is like, haha, I'm the expert on this place.
Oh, that cameo! You know who that voice actor is, right?
I forgot to
Himiya
look it up.
Nobuyuki.
Yes, he is the voice. One, for anybody who plays video games, he's the person who does all of these screams for Adult Link in Ocarina of Time. Outside of that, he was the main character of he played the main character of Gal Gaigar, King of the Braves. It was a super robot anime from the mid '90s, and several of his lines, several of the things he makes reference to, is to that show.
Oh,
He kind of looks like his voice actor a bit.
Yeah.
we're talking about Yoshiteru Saimakusa,
Yeah,
the Trinibio guy.
if you can pull up a picture of him and then pull up a picture of his voice actor.
Yeah, I can do that.
He
The Japanese voice actor, or
the
okay,
Japanese
because
voice actor.
Also Andrew Love was his American one. But yeah, let me just do that really quick.
Nobody gives a shit about that.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Holy fucking shit, he does look like him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, like the only difference is like the color of the hair and the glasses.
Yeah.
But he might have glasses in other pictures. Like I'm only just looking at this one picture of him.
Yeah, I'm checking out the guy's mugshot, Nobuyuki Hiyama.
Alright, so let me figure out how I'm gonna do this really quick.
Holy shit, he was Takeshi Nakasaru in Initial D.
Dot Hack, Excel World, Air Gear,
Oh,
Area 88, Astro
Yeah.
Boy.
yeah, the guy is very, very well known. All
You
right,
know what's
yeah.
crazy? I got the dude's art.
Bleach.
That's the guy with the R34. Oh, he was Byro in Your Lagan.
Captain Tsubasa. Cowboy
Oh my-
Bebop.
All right.
This
Yo,
dude was
he played Shin in the Japanese version of Cowboy Bebop.
Holy shit.
Played the main
Detective
character of the
Conan.
SMS team. Like he goes back years.
Dragon Ball Super.
All right.
Mr.
Fushigi
Tree on one.
Yugi.
Alright, so let me
Fate.
figure out what I'm doing here. So-
Number 3 on One Piece.
Intima.
there we go. Is that
Wow.
Alright.
H2. Oh my god.
This
Alright,
man has
so-
one hell of
Initial
a list.
D.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
I
he was
got
the
both of
dude.
them. I got both of them up on the
Kill
screen now.
la Kill.
Hell yeah.
There we go. Yeah. No,
Oh.
Yeah, this guy looks. They made him look quite a bit like him. Not
Yeah.
it's not exactly like him, but it's obvious they were trying to make him look somewhat like him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Marmalade
that's
Boy.
That's crazy. All
this
right.
dude
Gundam
was in
Seed.
Bubba
Let me
Bo.
just close these.
Zeta Gundam.
Oh my god, he was Pluton in Komari High School.
There we go. All right, cool.
One Piece. Pokemon. Oh my god.
Yeah,
This is
this
insane.
dude was
Samurai
a
Champloo.
Yeah.
This dude was in everywhere.
They
Alright.
gave a
Okay, so
very
basically, if-
satirical role to like a very expensive person to hire.
Tenjo Tenge.
Here's the thing: is like that guy was probably.
You might have to watch
like-
Tenjo Tenge at some point.
Yeah.
This guy is
Just to
this
kinda-
guy is here for Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
Damn.
Just to kind of sum that up, though, like he was probably someone that they, like, he modeled him after, and then you kind of have to throw him in since, it's like if you model an entire character after someone, it's like, yeah, you kind of have to hire him, and I mean that character was so well done.
Oh yeah,
my
so-
lad.
he was hilarious.
Yeah.
It reminds me of I'm not sure if any of you ever watched Zombieland Saga, but
Yeah.
I've seen a bit of it.
Yamada Tai's voice actor is a very expensive voice actor. She is prolific in the industry. All of her lines in that show are grunting or screaming.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Jesus, what did you just do to your mic?
All right. Anyway.
You're choking a hamster over there?
All right.
I try not to fucking laugh, man. Holy shit.
Okay, we kind of flew way off the rails here talking about a very famous
That's
voice
all right.
actor.
We've basically covered everything, and we still have time to spare.
Yeah. I guess we can just get into like the arcs because we really haven't talked about the story. We talked about the characters and kind of like where we like them in the story, but we didn't really
The
talk
art-
about the different arcs that were going on within the story.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's just kind of loop back around to that really quick, and we can
So-
start with his arc about like, like reading his horribly written fucking.
Oh
crap.
my god.
Yeah.
Yeah,
let's start there.
it's like he comes in, he does this ridiculous speech about how we meet again and blah 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 blah, and warrior of the whatever, and king of feudal Japan and whatever.
Chunibyo speak.
Yeah, and then he's just like, and it's just like, I just want you to review my story for a light novel.
And
Oh,
then, And then
man.
she's like, do you want me to, like, why don't you just post it online? And they're like, he's like, that will tear me apart. And it's like, do you know who you're talking to? She'll do worse.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude,
yeah,
I'll be honest here. The fact that Hachiman and Yukino poured this dude a new asshole in that arc was very...
Oh yeah, it was Yukino just rips this story apart. Like like even the grammar is completely and utterly demolished. And then Hachiman's he reads it. Oh, he looks at the thing. He waits like 10 seconds, and then he goes, "Who'd you copy this off of?"
Yeah.
yeah. and then he's like, all right, well, I'll go to the sweet girl. Yui, tell me something. You know big words. And he's just like,
Yeah.
Yeah, she didn't even read it.
well, she was
They're,
reading it like while like they were having the thing, and she was like falling asleep while like they
Yeah.
were having like the discussion.
Man,
There was
that
it
a
was so
really
good.
a really good meta joke there. Because again, this was originally a light novel. The person who wrote this is a published author, and he puts in the line, or Hachiman ends up saying, this is definitely the author's own words. Don't worry, it doesn't matter. All that really matters is if you have a good illustrator.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, like because it is a light novel too. Like you know that like that guy is like taking shots at other people. You know, like
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. You know what I find hilarious about Hachiman? The fact that the guy keeps fucking murder list of all the people he hates because they done him wrong on some really stupid reasons. Like one, and
Yeah.
one of the guys cuts him in line and shit.
Yeah, which really shows like the immaturity of Hachiman's character. That's the one thing I really like. They managed to like the author managed to make like a I'm not sure if any of you read Catcher in the Rye, but they managed to make a Holden-esque character, but actually managed to make a Holden-esque character that's likable because like there's enough flack being thrown back at him, or there's enough tells that he's feels more mature than he's letting on, and that was a really good one where he's like oh yeah, no, I've gotten over that phase, but he still mentions, oh, but I still kept this list because
Yeah.
he hasn't completely gotten over it, which is his
Yeah.
problem.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like one of the reasons he's like still likable is that his reasoning, first of all, is it makes sense. The guy's pretty smart, and second of all, um, it's not entirely genuine. Like he like you can tell underneath he isn't actually really like that. And he does actually care, but he doesn't want to admit it.
He's trying not to care because he's like afraid of getting hurt, and there's that entire thing where he's wanting to just be an outcast to not be vulnerable again. He feels like if he's trying to be upfront, trying to be who he was before, that he'll be vulnerable again, get shut down by another girl. And like all of his like, like shut down by a girl conversations were like typical kind of like middle school. You don't know how to talk to someone of the opposite sex, and like I watched the dub. I don't know if they had the exact same kind of like moment, but like he had it was like it's like when was the last time you talked to a girl, and like he nailed it down to like it was like a Wednesday, like 3.5 years ago, like
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
yeah.
text me back, and then she's like, oh, 7 p.m. Oh, sorry, I fell asleep.
Well,
when
there
you
was
sent the
that,
text.
but the one that like it was like the last time he talked to a girl, I think like it was something like the girl was like, "Man, it's hot," and he was like, "Nah, I'd say it's more humid," and then it's just him screaming in his bed, like
Yeah.
it was just he, put too much social pressure on himself too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we?
And the Japanese dialogue, he makes a really bad pun, if I
Oh, okay.
recall, as a joke, and they're just,
Staring at him.
oh,
Yeah.
you made that type of dad joke.
Yeah.
Can we talk a bit about the school festival arc and how they made the slash fanfic writer basically writes Saika as the prince?
Oh yeah, one of the
Oh man.
characters is a Master
Slash.
Fujoshi.
Yeah. Slash
She's-
fiction.
Full blown run girl to the core. Fucking hell.
Half her dialogue is talking. The release I had a weird translation for it, but the dialogue is constantly going over two phrases, which roughly translated as something like describing the top and bottom roles as they were in homosexual relationships.
The Uke and Sammy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god.
She is. What's funny is she's just part of like the main group of like all the popular kids kind of thing,
Yeah.
and then like she just comes out and she's like, I love gay men, I want to just read about this all the time, that's how I make the majority of my friends, and like and everyone's like,
Yeah.
can you just shut up, you were much more tolerable whenever you were quiet.
Yeah, that's another thing I like. Like even the like the characters the supporting cast is fairly strong writing wise. Like yeah, they're the popular kids who are kind of assholeish, but then there's kind of a reason they're assholes.
Oh god, speaking of assholes, the chick who got the popular girl in that show, the blonde girl. Oh my lord, what a bitch.
Yeah, the one that triggers a lot of the drama. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
between her and the chick who runs the school festival, who has a massive ego. I don't know. Both are really are on the same level of bitchiness. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I guess
Yeah,
we'll
and
go
Shizuka
ahead.
does a really good job of like, oh, she realizes that the problem with the kids in the service club, and this is why it was there. It wasn't necessarily to like work out their problems, because the show isn't trying to make some sort of like grand speech about, oh, you just need to like socialize, get out and socialize and be with people. It's like, no, no, not everybody's gonna be social. Some people are always just kind of gonna be, introverted or outside, and that's okay. Life's not always cheery like that. What it's trying to say is that what you need to do when you're in that situation is not force yourself, but really just learn to deal with other people, because that's unavoidable.
Yeah, I think that's really the strongest message of the show. It's like the plot's not too thick. It's an average romance plot, but underneath it, you sort of get you get that sort of message of okay, you're a loner, all right. Just just deal with being a loner. Accept it and make the best of it. Don't try to like force yourself to be an extrovert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I just realized that we kind of skipped over like there's a hidden Easter egg in the show.
We need to talk
If you
about it.
noticed, and it kind of revolves around the main plot. So, I don't know if any of you noticed this, but in every episode, did you notice that anytime they go to the club room, there's more and more stickers that happen?
Yeah, I
Oh
noticed
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
yeah,
so each one, if you zoom into and like actually look at it, relate to all the people that help them. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, so like the first one, is like Yui's sticker that's on the back of her phone, and there's like a hint that Yui is keeping track of who they help, by putting the stickers on the doorway, which kind of
I
ties back
legit never
into,
noticed that.
yeah, it kind
Crazy.
of ties back to the entire main plot of the show, which was this is also a competition between the two of them to figure out who can come up with the best solutions to people's problems and help people more. And that kind of gets lost in the show because you don't really remember that it's happening. It was brought up in the first episode, and it doesn't really get brought up again until like the second season.
yeah.
And it's
So
such a nice little touch too, like that the director was like, or the people in charge of art directions like, yeah, you need to have that up there.
Yeah, it's also very practical because you can always recognize, it's almost like the sort of space opera kind of establishing shot where they have the shot outside the ship before they go to the scene that's happening in the ship. Um, it's sort of like that, but instead, the establishing shot is the very recognizable sign outside the club. So it's also very good on a practical level.
Yeah. Like I talked about how this show like definitely seems like something the author like went through, and in that regard, it's kind of, if you ever watched The World God Only Knows, the author based that off of his personal experience with just his life as well. And a lot of like really good authors, when they're writing something, they're also kind of trying to work through something. And this definitely seems like somebody was trying to work through their past experiences in their youth, through the novel they were writing at the time.
yeah, I'm just gonna bring up the like signs so like people can see that really quick too. Just bring it up. Can I do this a little bit better, a little cleaner? Maybe not. That looks good enough. And oh, that's us. All right.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Um, and there's all the stickers.
So
And
all the
like,
stickers so far.
well, this is all the stickers I think after season 2. So like, this shows like how many people they've actually helped. And then each one relates to the character, so you can kind of see how many like people they're slowly influencing. So even these like loner kids, um, even over the second season, which would be 26 episodes, how many people they've helped.
Yeah.
And like a lot of those were like takes like 2 or 3 episodes to help one person, so to help people along the way as well. That's just, you know, it's showing the impact. I think
Yeah.
is the important part of what I was trying to get at. All right.
Yeah. It's about 11 p.m. We wanna start.
Yeah.
We want to start giving conclusions. Or you know what? No, no, no. We haven't watched
So I
the
haven't talked that
entire.
much. So I just want to
Well,
say
we can give
one.
conclusions of
I
the
just want to say
first.
one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I
No scores though, because we haven't watched the entire
no.
series.
Overall, everything you said about the positive impact, that's stuff that I when I watch these shows, sometimes I put myself back to where I would have been if I watched the show when it was intended for me. Um, and sometimes I hate a show. Uh, like I, I'm I'm rewatching Naruto and Inuyasha because I want to review them, and I need to watch them in the entirety. And the way I put it is, half the time Naruto just makes me roll my eyes. I'm like, please stop with the exposition. Anyways, point is, this show, I'd never seen it before. It's all right. It's all right, but it has some very good parts. It's not like one of those shows where it's really bad and then it has some average parts and then a few good parts. This show is okay. It's just okay, but it has few good parts that actually like made me think, huh, this is organic writing. This isn't just like we mentioned earlier. It's not just forced. These characters don't just magically start like fixing themselves. There's actual character development. Like
Mm,
they stay the same as their personalities more or less stay the same because people don't really change in some cases. They just become more of the same. But they change in the way that the main, like I mentioned, my favorite example is the main character becomes a helpful person to other people, and I liked
yeah,
that. But that's all I wanted to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's do our conclusions. No scores though.
How about instead of scores, because there is a second season and third, if you plan on watching more, how about we say that? Or like if you would be willing to watch more if like you have nothing else to do. We'll go
Mm,
with that as like the score.
okay.
All right.
Uh,
So I guess I'll start. I was the one that suggested this. I've watched this a few times, like I said. Usually it just becomes kind of like background noise, just so I can do things while having noise around the house. Try not to watch something that's going to catch my eye, stop me from doing anything productive. So that kind of shows I've enjoyed the show. It has its comedy moments. Um, it's funny. Like I said, there's a ton of memes that you can look up about it. It really has relatable characters. It's kind of fun. It's a good watch for a rom com. It's not really the best anime, but if you're just in the mood for a rom com, maybe you bring home a special someone and want to like watch something a little bit like that instead of watching like everything else. This is a good place to start. I do plan on watching the third season, so
mm,
yeah.
Striker.
Oh, honestly, it got at least a warm. It had its moments where it got a chuck out of me. Would I watch the second season after this, after all the things that honestly, yeah, I would have to check it out. This show isn't exactly groundbreaking in any aspect. It's not even. It's not that it's not funny. It's not that it's not. The thing is, if you watch Kurikano, it will ruin rom-com for you. But regarding my teenage romance comedy snafu, I'd suggest you if it's not your cup of tea, I'd suggest you check something else like Your Name or something more your taste. This show is clearly not for everybody, especially someone who, well, let's just say that isn't exactly into romantic comedies. I'm personally not into romantic comedies for the most part because I honestly think most of these are the same. I blame the fact that a lot of the Mexican soap operas have you reused the same plot over and over and over, and it just gets sick and tiring. And but would I suggest this? I would say find more or less it's a 50-50 and look it up for yourself. Um, in other words, it's not great, but it's also not bad either. So mm, let's just say I would watch the second season just to keep up, and the third one, yeah, the third one be the final season, the one that ends it all.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I would say yeah, go for it.
All right, Lolly.
well, I would say that okay, so the joke about you watch Karakana, you watched all rom coms. The reason for that, and that I often find is for some genres, rom coms in particular, and I would definitely say for most types of storytelling, there's only so many ways you can tell the story, tell a story. The structure has to there has to be, or there's some structures that simply work in storytelling, and we can't really get away from that unless like you're like some sort of like genius or something. But one of um one of the things that shows can do is that they can swap out one or two elements, or look at the element in a different light. And for OreGairu, I think it's very effective at looking through like rom-com or harem anime in a light that I that kind of like it's very it's kind of meta in a way, with how it seems to kind of be examining the genre itself and examining the types of characters that typically are in those shows rather than just like straight telling it. um I could probably ramble on about some of the arcs in this show for like several hours. That's how I would honestly say that's how effective and kind of multi-layered some of the writing is in some of it. I think the camp arc was probably like one of those really good ones that you could probably just talk about for a few hours. But the overall, yeah, I would absolutely recommend it. It would help to have some sort of genre familiarity to really appreciate what's going on. But the even if you don't have genre familiarity, the character writing still stands on its own. That's another thing that makes this very good in comparison to a lot of things that try to be very, very meta. This thing's meta, but its writing still stands on its own. It's not banking on the fact that it's meta. And so yeah, I would absolutely recommend it.
Let's see. Red Baron. Oh.
Hello there. Sorry, my microphone was acting up. So, could you repeat the question?
Your conclusion?
Yeah, it's just
Oh, I think I already did it though, didn't I? I said yeah, the show's an okay show.
All right,
And
all right, all right.
yeah, what I liked about it was instead of being a bad show and having a few decent parts in between and a few rare good parts, it was a decent show with some good parts in between. And the icing on the cake is I ended up liking the main character. I didn't think I would. I usually hate main characters for these kinds of shows because they're annoying. They're annoying, simpering, whiny. I can't relate to them. I can relate to the cynicism. I can't relate to them being whiny. This guy turned around and he actually made himself a part of his like tiny community in his school. Like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I'd just like to point out that I have my hands raised up in the air in triumph because I picked a rom-com that he was actually going to enjoy. I knew it.
All right.
Yeah, I said it was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So, yeah, I think this show it's definitely trying to do sort of a different take on rom-coms, and it's I was initially like before I went into this podcast, I was initially thinking this was just sort of average, but as we've talked about it, my opinion's kind of changed. Like this, I'm not going to say this is like really, really good, but I'm going to say this is a pretty good show. Like it's not like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, much must watch alongside like Cowboy Bebop and Ava and whatever. But I am going to say that this is a decent show. That's definitely worth watching, and I think I would watch it again or watch the second season if I if I'm done with other shows that I'm more interested in. Um. So yeah, I think that's about a wrap.
I hope you enjoyed listening
Yep.
to this podcast as much as we enjoyed writing it.
Writing.
So I was gonna say, so next month is March. We're gonna end up watching Moggy Sinbad's Adventure, I believe. That's what it's called. Yeah, Moggy
Yeah.
Sinbad's Adventure.
All right, all right. That's going to be completely blind viewing for me. All right.
Same here. All
Sounds
right.
about fair.
All right. So I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. Um, I hope everyone had a good month. Hope everyone has a good next month. And stay safe out there. Stay happy. And good night.
Bye bye.
All right.
Late.
Have a
Well,
good night. And...
See ya.
Adieu.